This podcast is a proud member of Pod Nation Media Network.
Hello, Kaiju Lovers, and welcome to the latest episode of the MIFV interview series. What is exciting for me today is that this is a follow-up interview that's been literally years in the making.
Nathan, you were like 15 when we talked last, I think.
Oh, so. Yeah. I mean, I feel it was so long ago, you know. We were all stuck in our houses, couldn't do anything. And
yeah, that's right.
It was that time. 2020. So 6 years. 6 years this has been in the making. You were actually, let me get into proper introductions out of it before I get too deep into this. But joining me today is Eric Elliott, creator of the wonderful fan-made comic book series Batman Meets Godzilla, based on one of the crazier ideas to come out of the annals of unmade kaiju movies. Thank you, John LeMay, the most cited man on the podcast, for making us all aware of this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, returning finally to talk about the final issue. We were, I should, like I was saying beforehand, I should have re-listened to that episode just to kind of like, what did we actually talk
I listen to it too before I go to sleep every night. I'm surprised you didn't take the time to listen to
it. Keeps you going, right? Yeah. And now we actually get to see your face, because last time I didn't even see what you looked like.
It's better you didn't. I frighten small children and pets, but that's all right.
It just sounds like the origin story of a Batman villain right there. I scared children and dogs while I was growing up. It told me I was destined to fight you, Batman.
Nice.
Although this is definitely not that Batman.
Man, we gotta get you doing some voice work on
I do voice acting actually now.
All right. Man, you've expanded. You got multiple podcasts.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, multiple.
And you got like a collection behind you and a shirt.
Yeah, even bigger.
Last time you didn't even have a shirt. I mean, like you've really come a long way. Yeah, it was just a barrel awkward. With like straps. I'm impressed.
Oh yeah, it was a little awkward. Those were hard times. Hard
well, it was COVID, you know.
It was COVID, but yeah. It's just if I can plug this a little bit, like I said, I do voiceover work now. I'm part of the stable of actors for Scyther Podcasts. They make high quality fan produced audio dramas based on superhero properties, including a Batman show, which unfortunately it's been running into production issues, so it's stalled out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Trial of Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
And it actually takes place in the 60s, around the time of Batman 66. But the premise is that Bruce Wayne has gotten old, retired from being Batman, because he started in 1930. No, is it 39?
Mm-hmm.
It's 39. He started in 1939, just like the comic. Now, did his thing for a while, got old, retired, married Selena. But then he got outed as Batman, as being put on trial for everything he did as Batman. And he's pleading guilty to all of it, except the murder of the Joker. That's the big hang-up. They're trying to figure out, did he actually murder the Joker or not? I was supposed to be in that one. I'll tell you as who after we're done recording here, because you would appreciate it.
All right. You're going to keep me guessing.
Yeah. But, if you listen to any of their other shows, you'll hear me. I'm on their X-Men show. I've made a cameo, and I'm trying to get him back on there. I've made a cameo as Deadpool, of all people.
Wow, I can see that.
I know. And on their Avengers show, whenever they cross over with the Fantastic Four, I'm Johnny Storm, baby.
Nice. I like the enthusiasm.
But the show and the character that I really made a name for myself with at Scythers on their Power Rangers show. I don't know how familiar you are with Power Rangers.
I was the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Is like what I followed.
Do you remember Rita Repulsa's skeleton brother?
Yeah. Is that the one that had like the general hat and stuff, or am I thinking?
Yeah, the army helmet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's me.
Man, it's the likeness. I could see it. Yeah.
It's the helmet hair, But anyway,
you're involved in all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting my nose stuck in everything. So yes,
good.
But we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the third and final issue, the long-awaited third and final issue of Batman Meets Godzilla. There were points where I've done periodic follow-ups with you, and it was like, dude, when's issue 3 coming? You're like, we're working on it. And I'm like, okay, I want to read it, and we got to talk about it. And it's been slow coming, and then you got a hold of me. I think, when was it? Like, it was last fall. I think it was before Christmas. Yeah. And you're like, hey, dude, it's coming.
Yeah.
We're like, what? Finally? So that's what we're here to talk about. But it's been a hot minute since I had you on before. And in case people have forgotten, or maybe they're learning about Batman Meets Godzilla for this comic anyway for the first time. Let everybody know, who are you? Where are you from? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Elliott.
Yeah. So I'm just an unassuming father of 4, live outside of Dallas, Texas. So I'm not a professional. This is a hobby of mine. I've done like 6-8 comics now. It's a good time. But like in my real life, I do boring financial stuff. And I'm all involved in AI and all the stuff that's going on. Yeah, I know. So like my day job.
I know who I'm blaming for the robot apocalypse.
Yes, you got to be nice to Siri and to Alexa.
It makes me think of this meme that somebody made that had all these Terminator robots, and they're kicking a bunch of people around being mean, and then they come to this one guy, and they're like, no, be nice. Well, get to it like Schwarzenegger. It's like, no, be nice to him. Why? He always said thank you after you asked his questions.
See, I saw some headline yesterday, like some AIs were forming a union. It's like it's just some crazy. I'm just telling you, the next 5 years are going to be insane. People don't even know what's coming in the next. Even the next year. But anyway, so my professional life is boring. But this is something that I got into. Like actually, when I was a kid, I used to make comics. I think I got a stack of stuff to go through here with you.
I was going to say, ooh, show and tell.
So like here's like a comic I made when I was like 10 years old.
Wow.
This is like Elmo the Ninja.
Elmo the Ninja. I like this idea.
All right. And then like here's one I did. I don't know if you can see this, the karate Kung Fu Cats. That's what it was. Kung Fu Cats. Like this was like my take on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I was gonna say that sounds like something that actually has some potential there.
Well, I think they've done like Samurai Pizza Cats.
Samurai Pizza Cats.
I figured they lifted it for me, but I can't prove it. But so I'm much older than you, by maybe 2 years older than you. But when I was coming up when the Ninja Turtles were black and white comics before they exploded on the TV with the cartoons and then the movies and all that. And so when I was in the comic book shops, and I loved the Ninja Turtles, and so that's how I got started with doing that. And I had some friends who were also really into comics, and in fact, my first issue, Batman Meets Godzilla, is dedicated to my good friend Jarvis McLaughlin, who's no longer with us. But he and I spent hours on the phone, just back in the days when you didn't have social media or anything, so you would be on the phone, and we'd have like a party line going, and our other friend Isaiah Roberts would be on there, and we just dream up all these characters and these stories, and it never really came of anything, but it was just a lot of fun just coming up with these characters and ideas. And then eventually we got into music and got into girls, and the comic books kind of took a back seat. But like Jarvis and I stayed friends forever. And we both went down the same road, like with playing guitars and learning and playing in bands and stuff like that. And so it was fun for me to actually, have this opportunity to pen some comics, and just thinking about Jarvis the whole time. But what happened on how this actually happened is there is a podcast I was listening to called Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast. Now, Gilbert Gottfried's also no longer with us. He died a couple years ago. And that was his co host, Frank Santopadre. And they were having an interview with a illustrator, Chip Kidd. And in that interview, they discussed this unmade movie, Batman Meets Godzilla. And so that sounded really like interesting, because I was as a kid, I was a big Batman and Godzilla fan. Let's see, I'm gonna do a little tour here. So you can see this is my original Godzilla from when I was 5 years old.
Wait a minute. Is that the one is that the Shogun Warriors Godzilla?
It's the Shogun Warrior Godzilla. I got
How
that.
do you have that?
This was a Christmas gift for me when I was 5 years old. It was my favorite toy. And during that time, they had a cartoon, and like you can kind of see right here, there's the Godzilla cartoon version. That's the cartoon. Ruby Spears maybe. And so I watched it when I was a kid, and that's how I came to know Godzilla. It wasn't like watching movies; it was watching the cartoon and playing with the Shogun Warrior. And then like I had the Batman TV show was in syndication as well. And so, I would watch it afternoons, and you see Adam West and Burt Ward do their thing. And so I was into Batman from the TV series, and then they also had cartoons like Super Friends, and Batman had a an animated series in the 70s I watched, and then the animated series of Godzilla. So that was kind of my interest in it. And so what happened on the Facebook page for the Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, a couple of us got together and decided to see if we could chase down this treatment. And I rode over to the University of Wyoming, where the treatment was held in their library. Wow. And they sent me a PDF of it, and then I started going on to Facebook groups where people do comic book art and stuff, and I started asking people. In fact, I posted in the issue 3. I posted the original post that I had set up on Facebook that kind of led to the different artists. But I had also kind of primed the pump. I had a friend, Kerouac, who did all the covers for these comics. I saw him he had done this sketch of the Batmobile, the 66 Batmobile, but I think like Ghost Rider was driving it. He had done some kind of mashup. But I always liked Kerouac. I was a fan of his he did this Mask, the toy series Mask. He had done, in the cartoon series, he had done his own comic on that. And he actually let me come in and do some work with him on it and some collaboration on it. So he and I became friends. So I asked him to do basically this cover here, which I made into a shirt from issue 1. Asked him to do that for me. And then I used that to promote among creatives this concept of doing the Batman Meets Godzilla. So I figured if I had like a good representation, that would help people visualize what this could be. And it worked. I started getting messages from artists, and started to pull together like a group of creatives. And in the early time frame, I hadn't written a comic. I had written some books, but I hadn't ever written a comic. And I was a little unsure of, my ability to do it and stuff. And so we kind of So I had artists and I had writers on the first issue, and it was, as I took the treatment and I started trying to make it into a script and stuff. And I was just reading the issue one today, rereading it and prep for this call, and I'd forgotten I had written all these notes in the back of the issue. You could see like my story notes and how I translated the treatment into a script and the things that made it from the script and some of the things that got cut. Um, but the um, the initial group of us was a combination of artists and writers, and then as we got into the further out issues, I took most of the writing on myself and just relied on my friends that were like the Godzilla experts and the kaiju experts to kind of weigh in and make sure I was keeping things honest and stuff. But that's kind of how it all started. It was just from that podcast and that discussion with Chip Kidd about this Batman Meets Godzilla movie that was never made,
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to track down the treatment, and then started scripting this stuff out. And it's amazing, like just how popular, you know. And I know it's no surprise to you, but like the Batman '66 show is amazingly popular today. Um,
That
and
was the definitive Batman for an entire generation, I would
Yeah, and
say.
like definitely for me, but like
I
even
think, like,
like
for Gen X in particular, that was
yeah,
their Batman, and then, because I'm a millennial, my
mhm,
introduction to Batman was Batman '89 and Batman the Animated Series.
yeah, yeah. And so we also one of the artists from Batman Meets Godzilla, Ian Miller, and I also did a a comic on the Burton Batman, so the Michael
Yeah,
Keaton
well, I
Batman.
do wanna talk to you about that a
So
little bit
we
later
did
because
a so
you have not been idle between
no,
issues
so
2
we
and
so
3.
we actually did 3 issues of that between issue 2 and issue 3 of Batman Meets Godzilla.
Yeah.
So the first issue was very kind of collaborative in terms, and you'll see that the some of it, the style changes as we go through issue 2 and issue 3, and I kind of take more direction on the writing. But it was just a real fun collaboration, and it was fun for me because I don't get to be very creative in my day job, so it was fun for me to flex that muscle and this in even today, I'm still working on some comics and still writing, and will continue to write for a while, on the new series that I'll be launching here soon. But anyway, getting back to Batman Meets Godzilla, it just kind of spun out of that podcast, and then
Mhm.
just super fans that joined in. I mentioned Kerouac, who did the cover. I actually have a poster somewhere of uh, of that original cover, and then he. I mentioned that he did. I'll do some more show and tell. So like the mask comics that he did. And
Mhm.
these are really well done. You can see that he's got a real commercial style,
Mhm.
and so I was so lucky to have him join the team and help on that on the comic. And he also did, like, he did the series of Shogun
Oh.
Warriors prints as well. He did a lot of these different things. And so you can find him on X and Instagram and stuff.
Mhm.
But he's out in New York, and I've never
Mhm.
met him. I've never met any of these people in real life. I would love to one day do a road trip and just go. Get a few artists that are in New York and a few in California. All that'd be fun to go
Mhm.
meet these people.
Mhm. Yeah, you just
So
go to the right convention, you might run into them. I had that happen. I went to Indiana Comic Con a couple years ago. I think it was
mhm.
pre-COVID, and I couldn't believe it. I didn't know he was gonna be there. I randomly bumped into the guy who did the cover art for one of my books.
Nice.
Yeah. I knew he didn't live that far. He lived up in, I think, like, the Grand Rapids or so area. So he wasn't that far from me. But I was just down in Indianapolis, went to this con. I was going through the artist section, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Now you
So
actually have been a speaker at some of these conventions and stuff, right?
yeah, I wasn't at that time for this one. I was just there as an attendee. But yeah, so like I said, you go to the right convention, you might meet these people.
Because I mean, like you are obviously an expert on all things kaiju and Godzilla, and
I try to be.
yeah, so like I can imagine. So like if you have a chance to hear Nathan speak at one of these conventions, you really ought to. This guy, not only is he very knowledgeable, but he's also very entertaining.
Yeah. That's the two of the cornerstones of this podcast. It's academic but entertaining. But if I
Yeah.
may ask,
Mhm.
going back to this podcast, because I found out about this unmade movie, like as I said earlier, because of my friend John LeMay reading his Kaiju Unmade books.
Yeah, I have one
Yeah.
of his books right here. And
Yes.
so John LeMay was kind enough to send this to me, but like I actually wrote.
That's one of his magazines. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of his quarterly magazines. I actually wrote this article about the making of the Batman Meets Godzilla, and
Oh,
so
what
this was
issue?
cool. Yeah,
What
so
issue
this
is
was
that?
cool that like just how the snowballed and people reached out to me and wanted
Hmm.
to talk to me about like people like yourself
Hmm.
and all the interesting people I've met through doing
Hmm.
this comic. And
Yeah. But I
so
was just
John
going to add.
LeMay, he wrote,
Mhm.
yeah, so he and I corresponded early on as I was trying to research, and I was really hoping to get a hold of Sekizawa's script
Mhm.
and and understand better the origins and the timeline. Like how did Sekizawa have a treatment before the Batman TV series, and it included Batgirl and all the like. There's so many unanswered questions even to this
Mhm.
day.
Mhm.
So yeah, he and I became friendly and had a lot of correspondence back and forth on it and everything. And so
Mhm.
yeah, it was fun getting to write something in one of his quarterlies.
Oh yeah, John's a great guy. I love John. Love John to death. But I was going to ask, do you remember when you heard this podcast that got the whole ball rolling?
I want to say it was like 2019. It
2019.
probably,
Okay.
yeah, it probably. I think like when I did the ad, and it was like fall of 2019.
Okay.
So it was. I was trying to pull it up here, but so like in the issue 3 here, like I actually have the original ad that I posted asking
Yeah.
help wanted. And there's the art that Kerouac had done, like I said, priming the pump and just like getting artists excited about doing this kind of project. And from this ad, I got Ian Miller came on board, and Howard Simpson, who was a professional artist, worked for Marvel, worked for DC, um, worked for Jim Shooter on when Jim Shooter went and did his own comic book company. And
Oh,
so
what was that called?
I'm drawing a blank on it because I I'm drawing a blank on it. But anyway, so it was November 2019 is when reached out to these artists. The podcast was probably probably like September or something like that of 2019.
Yeah, I was just wondering because I was trying to figure out the time frame because I do think John had published his book about that
Hmm. That's
before
how
that.
I found John. Is like in my
Mhm.
research, I came across his book on unmade movies. And I mean, like John, if you don't know, John publishes 5 books a month.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
he's
he's
always publishing
insane.
something.
Yeah, he's
He
kind of
is
nuts.
he
Yeah,
is always
it
publishing. He's a
says
full time writer.
yeah, it says Jim Shooter actually says he launched several comic book companies, most notably Valiant,
No,
Defiant, and Broadway. I'm
it's
guessing it was
right.
probably
Valiant
Valiant.
was the big one,
Yeah.
and it's a sad story, but that he had created that, and then his partners undermined him.
Mhm.
Jim Shooter, and stole the company, and then it went to a mess. But it was uh so it was still like like Howard Simpson told me some stories when he worked there, and it was like a bullpen, just like working at Marvel in the early days, and so he worked in the bullpen next to other artists and got to collaborate with Jim Shooter on comics. And um, he did like Turok the dinosaur. Is it
Dinosaur
dinosaur
Hunter.
Hunter? There you go. I was like, is it Killer or Hunter? It's Hunter. And then the other one, what's the one that Vince um, they made a movie Blood something.
Bloodshot.
Bloodshot. Yeah. And so Howard had a hand in developing that character and creating it when he was at Valiant. Um, and so anyway, yeah, so that was so we got Howard Simpson was a great find. He's a super fan. And
Hmm.
so not only was he a great artist and doing his own pencils and stuff, but he also helped color other artists that came on, and some of the prettiest pages that are in issue 2 and 3 or stuff that Howard colored. And he actually lettered issue 2 for me. He's just that kind of fan and stuff. I love Howard. Stay in touch with him. And and that's one of the fun things for me too, is meeting these people. I still talk to these guys all the time, and they were just excited as you are or were, and other
Hmm.
people for the issue 3 to come out. They've been waiting a long time as well.
Yeah.
And
Well, and
so,
that was a question I was going to ask, because you cranked the first 2 issues of this
yeah,
3-part story out really
yeah,
fast. I remember
hmm
it was 2020. It was the kind of, I guess you could say, the height of quarantine. It was relatively close to the start of
yeah,
quarantine. And issue 1 came out. You had been promoting that, hyping that on social
yeah.
media with the world's funniest Twitter handle, Batman Meets God, because you couldn't get the whole thing in there. It was great. And and so issue 1 came out, everybody read it, they were excited. I think that I was around that time. I can't remember if you reached out to me, or if I think you might have reached out to me. I'm not sure, but we got in contact. And then issue 2 came out just I think a few weeks later. And then that's when I interviewed you, and we talked about the, doing all of this. And we talked a
hmm
bit about what's issue 3 going to look like and when's it going to be out. And it took us 6 years, but here's our follow up.
Well, I have this promo that I did for Batman Meets Godzilla, and the date on there says it's going to come out summer 2021. So we
Mhm.
actually, so we missed our mark quite a bit. And like on the backside of it is an ad for the Batman Enigma issue 2. So we
Mhm.
actually got issue 2 and issue 3 out of Batman Enigma before we got out this guy here. But yeah, I was promoting having this done, and the unfortunate part of it was like with COVID. Like one of my artists, he he had a couple things going on, and like uh, just his wonderful artist did a lot of work on the issue 2 and issue 3, but he couldn't finish his pages for issue 3. And I really wanted to let him, because he had been such a great contributor and everything. And this is maybe a fault of mine, just like wanting to give him a chance to finish his pages. And I finally made the decision that I'm going to finish it one way or another. And so we used his pencils, and his pages are in the final issue, but he wasn't able to color them himself. But he, like I said, a wonderful artist, wonderful. I'm so happy we have his contributions and stuff. But I was really just holding out, waiting and waiting for. And life goes on. I mean, like, I'm a busy
Mhm.
person. I have other things going on. Everybody else is busy. Everything's going on. And so I was kind of like okay to let it wait, and maybe I waited way too long. But
Mhm.
at any rate, I just decided that I just want to get this done. And all the reaching out I had done with this artist and everything, and he would kind of like, okay, I'm going to do it this time, or I'm going to work on it. I'm off for a few weeks. I'm going to work on, and it just didn't finish. So we finally, and then what kind of was the catalyst for me just getting this out when it did was the 60th anniversary
Hmm.
of the Batman 66 TV show, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to drop it, and well, and I didn't get to do a lot of build up for it, or go out and talk to a lot of people or anything like that. It was just like, you know what, um, um, we're we're gonna hit the 60th anniversary, and it'll be done. And at some point I'll go back and I'll collect everything into like a single volume, and I'll go through and make some editorial updates and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so this is probably not the last version of it,
Hmm.
but it is for now.
Hmm.
We can say now that we completed the story,
I was gonna
and
say, yeah, yeah.
and
So, I'm guessing you just had a bunch of the work on those first two issues done before you put those out in 2020, and then production issues
I
legs
had I
issue
had
3.
I had this book done in 2021. I was just waiting on these pages from this one artist.
Yeah.
And it just, it just kept, it went on too long. But anyway,
Yeah.
like this could have been done earlier if I had just given this pages to another artist to do,
Mhm.
or if I just went with them unfinished or something. And I
Mhm.
debated both, and but uh, it's done now. People can judge for themselves if it was worth the wait.
Mhm.
But it was fun. It was a
Mhm.
good time. I'm in revisiting it all again to get it out this time, was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Getting to like reconnect with the artists, getting our group together and letting everybody know it's coming out, and everybody getting
Mhm.
excited about it, and um, it's a relief for me to kind of like, okay, I'm done with that piece. I can kind of focus on some other projects now and
Mhm.
clear my plate, and
Mhm.
so.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. This wasn't
Mhm.
on the list of questions I sent you, but it came to my mind.
He didn't
You
send
know,
me any questions.
which
This is
is
all.
yeah, yeah. So you mentioned, trying your hand at writing a comic book for the first
Uh-huh.
time with this
Mhm.
project. What was the most challenging thing that you had to learn, and, when it came to putting together a comic book script? Because this is something I'm trying to learn because I've
Okay.
been working with Toku
Well,
USA, a small comic publisher, and I'm
well.
I'm trying to teach myself how to write comic books.
All right. Well, I hate to tell you this. You either have it or you don't. And Nathan, I'm
Mhm.
not sure if you're cut out for this. It's very
Oh.
tough. So, now, like
You
for me,
have shattered my little ego.
uh, if it doesn't come easy, then it's not worth doing. No. So what like what's important for people to know is I did 99.9% of the work on this comic on my iPhone, and that includes writing the script. It includes communicating with everybody. It includes all the editorial stuff I did. So all
This
the
interview.
yes, this interview. It so like when I talk about the editorial stuff, the so like so like bringing all the pages together, doing like this is me, all of this. Sorry. So like all the text and composition of this page and this page and this page, doing this. This is all editorial stuff. I did all this on my iPhone, and and then also I lettered this issue. So all the lettering and stuff I did with an iPad. I'm sorry, an iPhone app called
Mhm.
Graphic. It's an outdated app. They don't update it anymore, but it's wonderful for lettering. So I
Mhm.
had to teach myself how to letter. Um, but the For me, learning to write a comic. So obviously, there's a script format, just like like if you're writing for a movie or screenplay or something like that. There's a page one, 5 panels. Panel one is this. Panel two is this. There's a format that you have to learn, and different writers have like different formats. It's not as tight of a format as like screenwriting for a movie is,
Mhm.
but you do have to convey like information to the artist, and every artist is different in the way you work with them. Some of them can take what you write and go off and come back with something. Others want some layouts or breakdowns, and so for some of my artists, I would draw the page like like on a small piece of paper. I just sketch it out and say, okay, in this panel, this is how this looks, um, and sometimes just working with artists, like what the challenge you have is like the text versus the art. And so
Mhm.
when you're scripting this, some like script with something in mind, and artists can come back with something different, or as you're trying to letter it, you'll find that the is in the way of the lettering, or you don't have room to do the bubbles or something like that, and you have to get creative. But like in terms of like for me, the challenge on this project was trying to be true to two huge properties.
Mhm.
um, so, you could really upset the Batman fans or the Godzilla fans. And so,
And let me tell you, both of those fan bases are at points overly adamant.
yeah, yeah. And thank goodness everybody's been so kind and had so many nice comments and everything. But like for me, I found the people that know Batman the best, these two brothers that had to the Bat Polls podcast. They would kind of chime in on the Batman stuff and keep me straight or make recommendations. And then on the kaiju front, having like a foremost expert on Godzilla to chime in
Kyoei
on stuff.
Toshi.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so comment and give some feedback and stuff. So those people kind of kept me in the lane that I needed to be in, and then everything else was me just trying to be fun. Like the number one thing, if you're writing a comic, is fun. You want fun on
Mhm.
every page. And if you read enough comics, you kind of understand the rhythm of a
Mhm.
comic. So when I talk about a rhythm, it means when you by the when you get to the end of the issue, it should make you want to read the next issue. And
Mhm.
so you're kind of building up to a climax that has to be resolved in the next
Mhm.
issue. And so the pacing and the rhythm is really important. And the way you create a rhythm is by your panels.
Mhm.
So if you want to speed things up, you have fewer panels. If you want to slow things down, um, you have more panels.
Mhm.
And there's also a lot of ways to convey information. I mean, that's what you're doing as a writer, but in a visual medium, you want to convey, at least in my opinion, you want to convey as much information you can visually versus, through text. Now, the compromise you have to make in something like a Batman 66 comic is if you watch the Batman TV show, there is a lot of talking. And so you have to honor that. And so, there's voiceovers going on. There's Batman and Robin talking and figuring things out and stuff like that. So you have to honor that and bring that into the comic. And so, like you'll see captions throughout the comics that are acting as their narration, as the voiceover. And
And
like,
every
and
time I saw one, I'm hearing the
that,
Batman
that
66 narrator.
yeah, this is intentional. That's what you want. And if you want it to feel like it's part of the TV series. Now, like if you're writing another comic, you wouldn't necessarily do it that way. You would do something different. So like for me, is trying to convey information in an interesting way visually and in an exciting way also too. Like for me is like the big set pieces. You want like cool things to happen, and
Mhm.
especially when you're doing like a fan comic, you want to give fans some fan service. You want to give, and like for me too is like I want to do something that people haven't seen before.
Mhm.
And that's the same with like when we did the Burton Batman comics. I don't want to retread something that's been done. I want to do something that's different and stands out. Um, and so like with the Batman Meets Godzilla, I wanted to give a villain that we haven't seen in the Batman TV series. So, we get Hugo Strange.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, yeah, because that's the thing that's fascinating about this is, yeah, this is very much the Batman 66 show, but and we talked about this in your previous interview, you went out on a limb and selected a villain who had not appeared in
Yeah.
the Batman 66 show. So it gave you an opportunity to kind of play around and be like, well, what would Dr. Hugo Strange be like if he was in the Batman 66 show? It's a little bit like, I think this came out pre 2020, but there was a couple of animated movies that were ostensibly sequels to Batman 66, had most of the original cast, the
That's
ones who
right.
were still living. And in the second one, I think what was it? It was like, it had a title. I forget. I was like, I forget. I forget. I might
They
have to
had
look it
William
up really quick.
Shatner as Two-Face.
Yeah, I was gonna
in
say
one of
the most interesting one was in the second one. This was exciting for me, not only as a comic book fan, but as a Star Trek fan.
Mhm.
They brought on William Shatner to play Two-Face. Two-Face was not in the original show. So it's like this what if. It's like if they had Two-Face in 1966, who would play Two-Face? Weirdly enough, William Shatner makes sense, especially back then. So they brought him in, and Shatner was Shatner as Two-Face. It was pretty cool. So
that's
you're kind
exactly
of
what you
doing the
want to
same thing
do.
here.
You want to do something fun, and something that hasn't been done before. And so, like, we casted Telly Savalas as our Hugo Strange, and you'll see his likeness in through the various images of him and stuff. But that was kind of how we cast it. Like, Yul Brynner was kind of like, could it be? but like, but Telly
Telly
Savalas is
Savalas
campy
makes the most
enough.
sense.
Yeah, he's campy enough, and so you want to do things that are different than, but also like we have a treatment, and the treatment was like 19 pages or something like that. I forget.
Oh, here it is. It was Batman: Return of the Cape Crusaders and Batman versus Two-Face.
There you go.
Yeah, 2016, 2017.
They're both worth watching. They're fun.
Mhm.
And so that's ideally what you're doing. You're honoring what's there, but you're doing something new and different with it. And same with like Godzilla. Like there's a lot of Easter eggs and references like to Mothra and then
Yeah,
like
you're very much using the mid 60s era Godzilla, which is why you're using Red Bamboo, which was the terrorist organization from Ebera Horror of the Deep, or Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, whichever title you prefer. It feels like a very natural pairing, and the tone of those kind of mid 60s movies does feel very conducive to Batman 66 for sure. Because the thing that is why there's a lot of unanswered questions as you were hitting out with this original treatment is it looks like Sekizawa was putting this together before Batman 66 even started airing. Batman 66 became a massive hit in Japan. It was incredibly popular. And then nothing really came of it. But the prevailing theory has always been it was probably going to be Adam West Batman and that current iteration of Godzilla. That's just been the prevailing theory, but no one is entirely sure because I don't think I'm trying to remember what John said. I'm trying to remember if it reached a full-fledged script or if I know at least had a story treatment.
That's all we had to work with was a story treatment. There's a couple of pages from Sekizawa. Some have said that it's not that it's fake. It's not real.
Yeah, I've heard
know.
I've heard some people say that one of the Batman 66 writers might have been involved with this project in some form or another.
You can imagine so just to be clear, there's the story is that there's a treatment that the Japanese did, that the Sekizawa did, and that there's absolutely a treatment that Dozier did because we have that treatment. All we have of Sekizawa's is some what are purported to be screen captures of a couple the pages of the script. And like I said, some people say it's not authentic what's on Sekizawa, but we have the Dozier treatment, which was from his library, like the holdings of the Dozier libraries in University of Wyoming, and they were kind enough to send me that treatment. And that's what I worked from. And it's like a night. And so for people who don't know, like a treatment is basically, here's all the cool things that can happen in a movie if we did one. And a producer can look at that and say, okay, if we did this movie, like these are the big set pieces like we would need, obviously Godzilla, and they're going to need a helicopter in this scene, and they can kind of like, okay, the budget for this is going to be, $2 million or whatever, and
XYZ amount,
or they can like say, this is interesting or it's not interesting, whatever, and kind of before you go and do a 90-page script for a 90-minute movie, you can work out some of the issues with it. So like this is kind of a pitch, and it has like what are some fun things that Batman can do when he's in Japan. And so like one of the odd things about it is there's a scene where Batman and Robin go into a bathhouse.
Yes, the bath. I just remembered that actually. Yeah.
Which didn't make it into my comic. It's like,
yeah.
But it's stuff like that. And so
and if I remember right, because I think we talked about this, so this was part of the inspiration for using Hugo Strange, was I think the Japan side of things, it was just a generic mad scientist villain.
Yeah, it was some German scientist, and to me it's like, well, you got to have a Batman villain. And Hugo Strange was known for like mind control and manipulation, so he fit the bill really well. But like you mentioned, Red Bamboo, I wanted to bring some elements from the Godzilla side as well. And so Red Bamboo kind of became the terrorist organization supporting Hugo Strange's attack on Japan.
I did not I was just looking up Hugo Strange. Like, when did he actually show up? I did not realize he showed up that early.
Yeah, it was like in the 40s or something?
1940, Detective Comics number 36. And he was actually created by Bill Finger and Bob Kane, the creators of Batman.
Yeah, and so how he didn't get used in the Batman 66, who knows? But he was ripe for the plucking, and so that was for me anyway, like an easy decision to make. And then I had to study Hugo Strange and research him and understand how he's been portrayed, and then I had to create a backstory for how he and Batman had an interaction in the past, and that gets kind of covered in the beginning of issue 2. We find out that it's a revenge plot to get Batman into Japan and all that. Just again, like with the writing, just try to think visually, try to come up with the coolest things that haven't been done. And try to make it just fun. Everything should be fun. Not like, you're like, well, I read X-Men and X-Men's not always fun. Well, true, like you have drama and stuff like that, but it's like captivating. You want it to be captivating. In a comic like Batman Meets Godzilla, you want it to be fun. You want excitement and fun things happening. And the treatment had a lot of weird things in it, like a lot of robots, a lot of people that were actually robot agents and stuff. So we kind of cut some of that stuff out and flip things around and change things, and brought in like a new Batmobile. It's like, we got to create you got to create your own Batmobile. You had this opportunity to do something new, so we created like all new vehicles. Batmobile, Batplane, Batcopter, even Batgirl's bike was a new design, and Ian Miller did most of those designs. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I'm trying to. Oh, there it is. I was like, I just realized that the PDF I had for reference was actually the preview issue. So I'm like, I need the actual one. Yeah. So now I do have it. So I was going to flip through it. So we can talk a little bit more specifically about what you issue through without giving spoilers, obviously, because we still want people to go to your website and read this. But
Mhm.
the big thing that happens in issue 3 that's been a big part of the promotional campaign, even back when you were first, when issue 2 it was the newest thing out, is Batgirl is in this.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
that's the first big draw. So it's Barbara Gordon, right? It's still is it
Yes.
Barbara Gordon in this one?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. I admit I have not seen as much of Batman 66 as I probably should.
Yeah. So, yeah. So to me, like, so Alfred isn't in the original treatment, so we added Alfred. He plays a big part in this.
Mhm.
And the commissioner and Barbara, we give an excuse that, commissioner's going there for a conference, and then everything kind of goes south, all the
Mhm.
things that are happening. And they have to get on the red phone and call Batman and bring him in and everything. So, yeah, we see her suit up in issue 2, and she goes after Strange directly, and then we see her, I think, at the end of issue 2, where she gets
Mhm.
captured, and then wouldn't you know, we go into issue 3, and Hugo Strange has flipped her, and we get to see her attack Batman. So there's
Mhm.
some. So she comes in a big way in issue 3. There's a lot of cool art, some cool fight scenes and stuff between her and Batman and Robin.
Mhm. With all with an appropriate amount of onomatopoeia.
Of course.
Yeah, okay, because it's Batman 66. I'm just flipping through this and I'm
Mhm.
just like, man, how much of this can I talk about without it flying into spoiler territory?
Yeah,
Because
I never. I mean, like, I always say, like, if you don't want spoilers, just pause it, go read it, come
yeah,
back and
you know what?
finish. But
That's what we'll
I,
do. This is your official spoiler warning because I'm
yes,
about to get into some things that
let's
made
get into.
me,
I'd rather get
yeah,
into it and have
yeah,
fun.
that made me as a Godzilla fan happy.
All right.
But one of the things that tickled me to death, and I'm like, this is just a smart you because what my one of my things, speaking as both a creator and a fan, is if you're gonna do a crossover, I want it to it needs to be meaningful. Tell a meaningful story if possible.
Yeah.
And don't make it a gimmick and utilize what each of the pieces of the crossover has to offer.
Hmm.
Take advantage of that. Even if it's
Sure.
just something as simple as how are these two characters going to interact with each other?
Right.
If you have Batman and Superman in the same story, what's their interaction going to be like?
Yeah.
You know, do something interesting with that, and hopefully tell a good story while you're at it. Well, one of the things that when I was flipping through this, so like, oh my gosh, we went there, and it just made sense, with a police conference and all that. We have Detective Shindo from Ghidorah and the Three-Headed Monster in this.
Yeah.
That was not on my bingo card when
Yeah.
I was reading this.
And he's an important character too.
He's a very important character. I'm like, yes, Shindo. It was such an underappreciated character. I mean, he stood up to like international assassins. I don't know if you ever saw Ghidorah the Three-Headed
I
Monster, at
did.
least for
Yeah.
research purposes. I'm
Yeah.
like, the guy is taking on assassins and protecting a potentially alien princess. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
it's
what I did was like, so this is for me, is like, I don't want to invent a character when a character exists.
mhm,
And so, like, one of my frustrations whenever I see like a movie adaptation, let's just take Superman, the most recent Superman movie. And we got all the DC universe to play with, but then we still invent characters for the villains. We make up villains and stuff. Like, why? Just go pull a cool villain that
yeah.
exists.
Yeah, or
Um,
if you're me, you're watching that movie and be like, "Oh, that's Ultraman? Why is he wearing the suit?" There's gonna be a big revelation about him, isn't there? And I was right about that,
yeah,
but when we got the revelation, I'm like, "This isn't Ultraman, this is Bizarro." Why is he Ultraman and not Bizarro?
You're absolutely right. See, I can tell you're going to be a good writer. You're going to make good comics. That's the kind of insight and thought process you need to have.
I
But
mean, unless this is a long game thing where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, spoiler warning for this movie, you know, he got thrown into the black hole and then he's going to come back and he's not a doofus anymore.
Yeah.
And just a big dumb brute. And now he actually is Ultraman. He's a comic accurate Ultraman because he got thrown into a parallel universe, got smart and took it over or something like that. I'm like, whatever. But I'm just like, this is Bizarro.
Yeah, I like your idea better, to be honest. I think, you know, especially like if like in the cloning process, like he kind of came out like not 100%, you know, like they leaned into that.
Yeah, I mean, I could have seen a mild tangent. I could see them putting the suit on him and calling him Ultraman for PR purposes.
Yeah.
But when he's revealed, he's this failed clone and someone like as a just offhand, just like, man, this guy is so Bizarro or something like that. And he's like, me and Bizarro? And you just go from there. And,
I like your version much better.
With Corn Sweat doing that line, it's like, me and Bizarro.
I like that. Yeah, I think that's a much better way to do it. And just
and so that way, calling him Ultraman is a way to throw people off of the revelation. For it's to throw the fans and the audience off.
100%.
So it's like, oh, you thought this was Ultraman? It's actually Bizarro,
Yeah. But that's exactly right. Is like you have this whole playground, the sandbox of toys, use them. And so I had a need for a detective. And so, and I don't recall, but I bet I reached out to Kyoei Toshi and said, who would be a good detective, like a civilian that I could pull into this storyline. And I also had in my head, for issue 3 that I was going to, what I wanted to do is have like a Japanese Batman. And I'm like, who would be like, who could become, but that the fans from Godzilla would know, like I don't want to create somebody out of thin air. I want it to resonate with fans and they would root for this guy. And so that's how that came about.
There is a Japanese Batman that does exist. There was a Batman manga.
I know Bat manga. Yeah.
Manga.
Yeah. And I have that collected series and Chip Kidd. So we were just talking about Chip Kidd before. He collected that Bat manga series together and as the editor of it and everything. And he also, Chip Kidd, did this Batman 66 like it's all the collectibles, and many of them are Japanese, and he photographed and pieced all this stuff together. So that's the Bat manga. I became aware of that because of his discussion, that same interview that Gilbert Gottfried had with Chip Kidd, and they talked about that. And those, I love that artwork from that style. And if you haven't seen it, it's really neat. It's a different way than you've seen Batman portrayed. And to say it's very Japanese is is obvious, but it's very cool because it's a retro. I mean, it's like in the 1960s. It ran concurrent with the Batman TV series there.
Yeah. Now, so Shindo being in this is cool. I will admit, there's a group of characters in this that I'm like, I don't know what these are.
All right.
And that's safe.
Yeah.
Did you pull those from someplace and even I don't know about?
Those
or did you make them up?
I made them up.
Okay.
And so you're talking about the Super Action Force Elite.
Yes.
Right. What was it again? The Supernatural Action Force Elite. Supernatural Action Force Elite. You're talking about these guys here.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I wanted to do like this team that would, from the Japanese, so kind of expanding on the Japanese side, because we've done a lot of expansion on the Batman side. So I wanted to build out more on the Japanese side. and this was part of that. So bringing in Shindo, bringing and creating the supernatural action force elite, which plays on a lot of the tropes from like Japanese superhero teams, where you have like the big guy, the woman, the athletic lead, the kid. Like I grew up on Battle of the Planets, and so like,
Gotchaman.
yeah, gotcha, man. And so that's kind of where my head went, is like thinking of all those early anime that I watched as a kid, and they had.
I can tell you what it. I didn't make the connection to Gotchaman, and I probably should, but I can tell you what it did initially remind me of, and that's the Science Patrol from Ultraman.
Mhm.
The Japanese Ultraman, not DC Ultraman, like we were talking about.
I know it's confusing.
Japanese Ultraman.
but that's the tropes I wanted to play off of there, and so creating that team was kind of fun. And they come in, and we kind of set up this whole this Japanese Batman backstory. And two, like I was also thinking like maybe one day I would revisit these characters and maybe do some comics with that. So like doing something with the Batman, the Japanese Batman, and this safe team, and fighting other monsters and stuff like that. So that could happen one day.
Yeah, and then the other big thing that happens in this comic, naturally, we have a kaiju fight.
Yes. Yeah.
We have a new kaiju who shows up in this Bat-Zugan.
Yeah.
Bat-Zugan, which is a wonder. That is a very 60s kaiju name.
Yeah.
Right there. And naturally, he's a bat. I don't know if you meant this or not, but there was a bit of Godzilla lore that it did remind me of. In the late 90s, there was a Saturday morning cartoon that was a sequel to the much derided, Roland Emmerich Godzilla film.
Yeah.
And there were a handful of episodes. It was part of them. It was a multi-parter, and then the monster came back later that they had a giant bat. And its power set was weirdly similar to Bat-Zugan because he had a supersonic scream.
No relation. So the actual origin of it was, I was trying to. We have Batgirl captured by Hugo Strange, and the initial idea I had was that Batman and Robin go rescue her from Tokyo Tower, but they have to fight Man-Bat. But it's
I was wondering. I did think of Man-Bat as well.
So like when I doing my research, I saw that there was like a Japanese version of Man-Bat that was like a character in some of the older Toho movies, and the Latitude Zero is the one that's coming to my mind. Yeah. And so it's like, well, maybe I'll do that, but like the story just got stuck. Like it didn't go anywhere. It would have been cool for them to fight Man-Bat and everything, but it's like, it'd be much more fun if we got to see Godzilla fight another kaiju.
I mean, you could have tried to do both and have it start off as Japanese Man-Bat, and then through comic book shenanigans, he gets turned into a kaiju.
yeah, exactly. There's all kinds. And so, but as I kind of kept reworking it and A/B testing it in my head, it just was more fun to just have Godzilla go fight with a giant bat.
Yeah.
In my head.
Sorry. Finish.
I was going to say, it was in my head. The kaiju was going to be more bat-like, more like a flying fox. And Howard Simpson, who designed it, brought in kind of more like dragon-like features to it.
I noticed that because you can tell it's a bat, but there is some dragon, features in Bat-Zugan, especially in some of the arts, a little bit more in some of the other art styles than others.
This like Howard did a model of it and everything, and that's kind of what we worked from and everything. But in my head, it was more like a flying fox, just like a giant bat, which, to my knowledge and research, I didn't see where that had been done in any of the old kaiju movies, but it would have been fun.
Yeah, I can. Well, like I said, in Latitude Zero, that was an American co-production actually, and it was actually written by an American. Starred a lot of English-speaking Americans. You can hear Akira Takarada speaking English the entire time because it was meant to be filmed in English and then shown in the United States. And the villain in that play this, you really need to see it now. And if you had done this, it would have been even more perfect than you realize. Because guess who played the villain in that? Cesar Romero.
It all comes full circle.
It does come full circle. It was Cesar Romero. I know what, I'm going to double check. I'm pretty sure I've done an episode on this, but I'm pretty sure it was Cesar Romero. I'm just going to make sure because I have not watched it in a hot minute. Yeah, yep, Cesar Romero. Cesar Romero, and he had people. Yeah, and he had these genetically engineered Batmen as his minions, that would do stuff. They weren't kaiju size.
Yeah.
But another example that would have been interesting to pull from is not a Toho production, it was Toei. It was Kamen Rider. Because in the original Kamen Rider, it was the second monster he ever fought was a character that they called Batman, but it's like hyphenated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was this half man. It was more like man bat if you really want to get technical.
Yeah.
It was like half man, half bat. He was going around and like was drinking people's blood like a vampire, and Kamen Rider, the hero, and that has to go fight him. Interestingly, the first monster he ever fought was Spider-Man. There was a half man, half spider. But because of that, it has become tradition, or at least it was for a really long time, to have the first monsters that a new Kamen Rider fights be a spider and a bat.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So that could have been another interesting one if you wanted to imply like Shocker, the original evil organization that Kamen Rider fought, was involved in this. I mean, like you could have gone really crazy if you wanted to, but it was probably better to keep it Godzilla and Toho focused.
Yeah. But that's the like I said, like this trying to draw from the Godzilla side in issue 3 and expand on kind of the mythology, because that when we wrapped up issue 2, we pretty much had covered everything that was in the treatment. Like Godzilla had been captured, and Batman and Robin had saved the day, except for Hugo Strange was still out there. And so like when we were working on issue 2, like everybody wanted to come back and do another issue, and so and so which I was happy to do, and so that's how we kind of extended into issue 3, which breaks a lot of new ground from the original treatment, and we get all these new characters and some more fun action and vehicles and stuff.
And you brought in Tokyo Tower, which is very appropriate. Tokyo Tower is a favorite target of kaiju. It shows up a lot.
Yes, I remember.
I think the first time it was in a kaiju movie was the original Mothra, and then it's been visited by Godzilla and Gamera and
I remember
ton of other monsters.
When I was doing research, so I think the first thing I watched was the Ibira Horror, one.
Horror of the Deep, yeah,
Horror of the Deep, and then I watched Mothra, and just trying to, and I watched a few others as well, but it was trying to. Like the Tokyo Tower scene and stuff like that, and like what are the landmarks and stuff like that resonate and make sense, and try to like this idea of how Strange is controlling Godzilla. He needs a large antenna, which Tokyo Tower makes sense for, but I didn't want to do something that Mothra had already done. So, I was kind of watching that and see, you see that scene where Mothra's crawling up Tokyo Tower and everything. So I think we did it, different, but yeah, it's, like so issue 3 is a lot of new stuff. But, in the same vein, we're still trying to honor both franchises. While breaking new ground,
Yeah, you do use it differently. I think the most, it's interesting now that I think about it, what kaiju have used it for. In Mothra used it to help her cocoon. In
Mhm.
Gamera Guardian of the Universe, which was a 90s movie, it was used by Gyaos as a nest. Knocked over the top and then set up a nest and laid eggs.
Yeah.
So,
And I
yeah,
think I
I do
watched
love that thing.
there was some Japanese vampire movie I watched, forget the name of it, that took place on Tokyo Tower.
Oh,
And I
King
watched.
Kong climbed it in King Kong Escapes.
Okay.
Had a fight with a robot with his robotic double.
Yeah, I watched that too. Because that was basically the same period as all these other things happening. So I try to watch all the movies around that period and kind of understand what happened before and after as well.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cool stuff to get in here, and I do like at the end there we get a little cameo from Minya. That was nice. That was also around that time. So if if you're one of those people who wants to slot this story into the movie continuity, that tells you exactly where to put it. It's probably between Ebera and Son of Godzilla. So
That's
slot it
exactly
in right
right.
there.
And those are the bookends. And we pay tribute to Ibira in the issue 2. We have an ad for the Ibira chips that we did.
Yes.
And then
and then you also have a nod to Ichiro from All Monsters Attack or Godzilla's Revenge.
yeah, exactly. And so so when we wrap up this issue, I wanted Godzilla's son, in there as kind of a sign of hope, but also like leading off into the next movie.
Yeah. Yeah, which, like I said, makes somebody like me very happy. So it's like if this did get made, you could this probably would have been about where it would have fit in, with the productions. And although I do appreciate the fact that you used the Destroy All Monsters suit as opposed to the suit that's actually in Son of Godzilla, because it's the ugliest Godzilla suit ever.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Yeah, that was the choice of the artist, Matt, Monkey Man is what he goes by. But yeah, he that was his choice on the costume and everything. But I think it works. It looks good.
Yeah. Actually, that was one of my questions, and I think we probably talked about this before, because this is you're continuing what you've been doing with the first 2 issues, and that is you don't have a single artist working on this, you have multiple.
Yeah.
Why that choice?
Well, yeah, why is it a jam versus like doing like when Ian? Well, first of all, it's a huge commitment for an artist to do 20 pages, 40 pages, 60 pages. It's a huge commitment. I know working with Kerouac on his Mask comics and stuff like that, where he was doing the pencils, the coloring, and the lettering and everything like that. It's just a huge undertaking. And so to me, it was from kind of as a project manager is like easier or more likely to get done if we could break this into pieces and split it up amongst a group. So I don't know, like just from this outstart, in my head, it was just going to be a group project. Like I never envisioned it being like trying to find an artist that would do this by themselves. And and there's other fan comics where they have like an artist that for more than a few pages and stuff like that. And there are advantages to that, but on the back end of it too, it's just a huge commitment. It's easier to write it than it is to draw it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like I said, this is something that, I've thought about. I know artists, including my own brother Jared, and it's like, how do you manage the art side of things when it comes to comics, and making all of that work. But I will say I think I remember the first time I read the first 2 issues, it did throw me off a little bit when the art style suddenly changed.
Mhm.
I wasn't used to comics like that. Now,
Mhm.
since then, I have seen stuff that coming out of even from quote unquote professional comics where they do some stuff like that. It's usually in special like anniversary issues or something like that,
Yeah, it's
where it's like, oh, we're going to bring back a bunch of artists who've worked on
mhm.
this comic during its history who are very well known, and we're going to have them take turns illustrating this one
Right.
story.
Yeah, if you're around long enough, you'll see it. Like when I was probably the first one I saw when I was a kid was the X-Men did a Heroes for Hope issue, which was like fundraising for the um, like the what was it for hunger, fighting hunger in Africa. They're raising money for it, and every few pages was a different artist, and like you had Arthur Adams, who was the artist of the time, like 1986. Arthur Adams was the artist. And you had all these great artists, but every few pages the style would change. So that's probably the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
time I was exposed
I
to
just
that.
I just looked it up. It was raising hunger, raising awareness for hunger in Africa, and the proceeds went to American Friends Service Committee.
Yeah, and so it has an amazing cover. It's a classic cover. And but like, yeah, you're reading it, like you see, like if you're just reading a comic, you may not notice how differently artists will portray a character. But when they're back to back, is they can be, like you said, kind of jarring or different. What's interesting, like as I was writing this and handing it off to artists, and what we tried to we made an attempt to very early on to have a model of what Batman and Robin and these characters should look like.
I was gonna say, you have those are likenesses that you have to make sure you get down because those are very specific looks.
Yeah, but like I
Clearly
found,
inspired by the comics of the time, but there's still some little flourishes that make it distinctly Adam West
mhm,
and Burt Ward.
yeah, exactly. And so like I had an artist early on who was doing models, and he dropped out because he had a baby, and I just kind of let go of the idea that everybody's got to look the same.
Mhm.
It's not going to be like a cartoon where you have 100 artists all drawing off model and giving you the same result. And one of the reasons for that is this is a promotional, you know so like what is it in it for an artist to do this? One is their love of these characters, but also to get their work seen. And so to me, like, I don't want to handcuff somebody showing off their style and showing how they like to their take on something. Now there was a couple times where I went back to the artist and was like, hey, can like tighten this up a little bit more on the model or something. um and still, like, you're gonna see like different takes, even like on a major character like Batgirl. Somebody draws her mask differently than what would be considered a model.
Mhm.
um and so, like, I wrestled with it, but like ultimately, like, to me, this is for me, is as much about promoting the artists and getting their work seen. And I've done, tried every chance I get to promote these artists, and get their names out there. If they have stuff that they're selling, I try to share that, through X or these podcasts and stuff.
Mhm.
So like, to me, like, this book doesn't get made without the artists, and it's not fun unless these artists are having fun doing it.
Yeah. I will admit this time around, I went in expecting that. I'm a little more used to it now.
Hmm.
And the only time it threw me off is about in the middle of the comic when Batsugan shows up, and
Yeah.
it's the fight scene where Batman and Robin are able to undo the mind control on Batgirl.
Yeah.
The model for Batgirl changes kind of drastically for this middle section when this one artist takes over, and then it
Yeah.
switches back afterward. And that was for whatever reason. I don't remember which artist it was, but that
Yeah.
artist decided to draw her costume looking like a varsity jacket.
Oh, well,
for
that's
some odd
well,
reason.
yeah, well, that's
And then
actually
after his pages, it went right back to being on model from the TV show.
yeah, well, that's interesting. Like, I'm kind of glad you brought it up. So, like, you can see, I flipped all the way
It's
back.
a little confused.
Yeah, so like, so that was actually a recommendation from Kyo Toshi that is a trope of the of the Japanese movies, like the with the bad girl with the jacket. When she's bad, she's gonna have a jacket on. So that was let's
Okay.
see. So that was so you can see there's the jacket right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But that was a recommendation from Kyo Toshi that it's a
Interesting.
yeah, that's a trope. And
Hmm.
so that was done intentionally. Maybe not very many people picked up on it, but but that was intentional. That at least the jacket was intentional. But
Okay, that makes way more sense now. I was just like, okay, I guess that's just how the artist decided to draw bad girl.
no, there was intention. When she's part of a motorcycle gang, she's gonna have the bad girl jacket on. That was the story there.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, that makes way more sense now. Way more sense. All right. So yeah, you covered a ton of my questions without me even asking, which I kind of
We
love.
flow here, man.
Yeah, we flow. That is for sure. So, this kind of goes back to when I was asking about, learning how to, basically teaching yourself how to write comic books. But,
Mhm.
if you could give, you probably don't think you're in the position to do this, but if you could give advice to people who want to make their own comic book,
Mhm.
they're aspiring to do this,
Yeah.
you're not, doing this officially for a Marvel or DC, but you still made something and you put it out there.
Mhm.
What would you tell people who say it's like, man, I want to make my own comic book? What should I do?
Yeah. So I'd say a few things. So if you're trying to create awareness of you want to be an artist and you want to create awareness, a fan comic is a really good way to do that. You're going to get a lot more views on a property that's popular than something that that is unknown in terms of just getting awareness. Um, so I think doing fan comics is great. Um, and I think that's a smart way to go if you're trying to, and also really good at making connections, learning the craft of making a comic, and getting followers and building an audience. And like we didn't do it, but like one thing that I would recommend to people is if you're writing a comic, do a YouTube channel or a blog or something where you're basically taking people along with you on the journey. And if you're doing something original, especially recommend that. If
Mhm.
your intention is to do a Kickstarter and to try to sell your original work, you got to start promoting that minus 100 days from when you're going to launch, or a year before you launch. You need to be building an audience. If you're not a known person, you need to be building an audience. And
Mhm.
one way to do that is just take people along with the journey. People will root for you. They'll go through the ups and downs with you, and they'll be more committed to investing in you. And I think, and there's people that's all they do is Kickstarters. They do,
Mhm.
and even professionals. There's professionals now.
Mhm.
That's what they do. They do um, their own comics, and they just do it on Kickstarter. But I think
There are
like
comic book companies where that's what they do.
yeah, it's
Boom
all
Studios has done a ton of Kickstarters.
there you go. And so how you compete against everything out there is you got to have your voice and you got to be out there. It helps if you're handsome like Nathan here and and have a lot of great voices you can do and everything.
Mhm.
But the game is different now, and like I don't know if Steve Ditko would be out there promoting himself in this way and being able to build an audience, but like building an audience, is going to be hugely important. And we talked at the beginning of this call, about AI coming in and stuff, and like how do you
Mhm.
separate yourself in an AI world? Is like you have to be original.
Mhm.
People are going to be hungry for originality and uniqueness. And there's going to be more and more AI stuff out there to compete against.
Mhm.
You have to be your own voice, and you're going to have to be, um, you have to be able to reach people, and you
Mhm.
do that by building an audience, taking people through your journey. And you got to be consistent, and you got to do it fairly frequently, because people get
Mhm.
used to being around you and your voice and stuff. Some of my favorite channels that I've followed for years have been people that just are consistently posting, and it may take them a while to build that audience, but at some point you reach the tipping point where somebody new coming in has, they can go back and watch 50 videos of you, and
Mhm.
you have like a library and stuff like that. And then, by the way, you're getting better, you're getting feedback from people, and you're developing what you hope will be, people that will buy your products and stuff. Um, I talked to John LeMay about this. Like, there's a theory that you can make a living if you can find 1,000 people that will buy anything you make, and
Right.
you continue to make things on a schedule. And that's what John does. And he says, he endorsed that. He said, absolutely true. And so, I think that's part of it, is build that 1,000 people that love you and will buy your stuff, and build your own pirate ship. Build your own business, that's based around you. But like people trying to break into, like, they want to go work for Marvel, or they want to go work for DC. That's really challenging, and very is like winning the lottery, to be
Yeah.
honest. And there's it's the industry's changed so much, and I'm not
Mhm.
an expert on that part of it. I just know what I hear from people that are involved in it and stuff.
Mhm.
um
Yeah, I
but
mean, I've just been thinking about as we've been talking, like, considering it's been 6 years between issues 2 and 3, just thinking about, like, if you just look at the Batman front, just what has happened with
yeah.
Batman just in those 6 years. I mean, like, we had another Batman movie. There was a Batman 66 comic
Hmm.
for a hot minute there. You were kind of,
Yeah.
on the heels of that,
Yeah.
because I can't remember exactly when it started. I think it was after 2020, I'm pretty sure. So you had that, and they introduced a new version of Batman called Absolute Batman, who's
Yeah.
really different. Like, so much has happened.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's great about Batman, is this, for whatever reason, is so, you know, open to interpretation,
Mhm.
and can be done so many different ways. I mean, you just consider, like, just on the two properties I worked on, the Adam West Batman and then the Michael Keaton Batman, they couldn't be more different from
Oh,
each
yeah,
other.
Michael Keaton Batman came back in that
Yeah.
ridiculous Flash movie.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's just, and then so, like you mentioned, Absolute Batman, like that's the hot thing right now. And it's just, to me, it seems like a throwback to the dark, like Frank Miller's Batman a lot.
Mhm.
And, but they're doing something new. Like, they're
Mhm.
playing with the origin and the characters and stuff like that. I mean, that's
Mhm.
what you got to do, is give people something they haven't seen before.
Mhm. Yeah, and then obviously on the Godzilla front, there's been multiple Godzilla films since then. A couple of well, not a new one. Well, not a couple of them, but we had an anime. you know, the MonsterVerse is still chugging along. We had
Yeah,
Godzilla
they're
minus one. Like, it has been nuts the
Yeah, I mean,
last
I think
handful
both,
of years.
it's interesting. I think both properties have just become even bigger than they were when we started out. And so much has happened, like you said, since
Mhm.
2019. It's just,
Mhm.
it's amazing. And both properties have had huge anniversaries as well.
Mhm. Oh,
Yeah,
and we've had a bunch of crazy crossovers with them in the
yeah,
official comics. Like,
yeah,
they've had Batman and Godzilla in official comic books since then. A couple of times even. It's nuts because they did those Godzilla versus Kong versus Justice League.
Yeah. And then
you could go into a store like a Target or whatever, and you could find action figures based on that.
Yeah. It blows my mind. Like, we were kind of the tip of the spear on this resurgence. And, I can't take credit for any of it, but it's just fun to be like validated. Like, this was a good idea, and it's something that people wanted, and I got there first. And and I feel that way too about like on the Tim Burton Batman stuff we did. We got there first on a few things.
Because there's been a Batman 89 comic
that came after us, and we did our stories different from theirs, and but we planted our flag. Like, you gotta get out there and do something original, and it's like I said, a good idea is a good idea. And so it's fun now seeing like the last couple of years, all these crossovers in the Marvel and DC universes with Godzilla, in the resurgence, and we were ahead of that, and so it's fun for me to see that.
I was gonna joke that what you need to do next is King Kong meets Superman or something like that, but that's kind of already been done in the in these DC series. So now you got to do something. You got to do something really nuts, or you could do what I've been saying for a long time is the obvious thing to do. You do Ninja Turtles meets Gamera. I'm telling you, they're doing Ninja Turtles and Godzilla. Like, guys, the obvious choice is Gamera.
What's fun is I've had over the years, different people have pitched different ideas to me and stuff, and it's fun. Like, people want to see different monsters and different combinations. Like, somebody suggested a Gilligan's Island meets, like Gamora, like just different things that people want to mash up. And I was like, well, that's what's great about fan comics,
Yeah.
You write your own. Like, it's something you want to see that's not out there, everybody has a shot at it. And, we've been really fortunate, like I said, like all the wonderful talent that I've worked with, the wonderful support we receive from both communities, from the Batman 66. I mean, like, I remember when I was writing Batman Meets Godzilla, and I was doing research, and I would listen to the Bat Poles podcast and listen to those brothers, and like there's those guys are so cool. I would love to be able to talk to them and about and then I got to be on their show, and that was so much fun. And the same thing happened with the Tim Burton Batman comics we did. I was listening to the Superhero Stuff You Should Know podcast, and Ben Wan, who knows like everything about Batman, and like it was like a college course in Batman. And
those exist, actually.
Well, like, this guy should be teaching them, because like he knows everything, and like he would have all these people on who wrote scripts and stuff like that, and you just learn so much. And I remember just like, that is a really cool guy. I wish I knew him. And like then I've had 3 or 4 shows that I've done with him, and these podcasts and stuff, and just such a fun guy. And so like for me, it's a fun to get to meet these people like yourself and get to talk about having something to talk about, something to bring something to the table. And then it keeps growing, like on the Batman Enigma side, we just did an audio drama of that.
If you need an actor.
Well, yeah. So like Newverse Creative has a big channel over there, and that they did a motion comic. So they took Ian adapted the script and adapted the comic to a motion comic, and they had a bunch of voice actors. Tim is it Tim Miller over there who runs that channel, does a great job coordinating. He's got a bunch of great audio dramas out there, and so they did that one, and it took off. It did really well. And there's a script for the Batman Meets Godzilla audio drama. It's been so that's been done. So it's a matter of time before they get to that. And
let me know when they do, and I'll talk to some of my friends at Scyther. I'll get you at least a few characters.
Well, I know Tim is always looking for voice actors. He put out a call a few weeks ago looking for people. So if you like doing voice acting, reach out to the Tim over there on the Newverse Creative YouTube channel. He actually had me do a couple of voices. It's like I've been typecast as doing this deep gravelly voice, which is funny to me because like I'm not that, I'm not a intimidating person at all, but like those are the voices I've been doing.
I mean, like you should go listen to what I've done for Scyther, and you're I think with Rito in particular, you'll be like, where did he find that? Because I'm
like you've got a great voice, a very versatile voice, and like you have a lot of energy in your voice, and so yeah, you're well suited for it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's I kind of like how the three primary characters I play for Scyther, I run the entire gamut because I have a hero, a villain, and an anti-hero. And I have to use different voices for each of them. Yeah, because Johnny Storm, hero, Rito's a bad guy, and Deadpool is an anti-hero as far as I care. So
yeah. I mean, with just Deadpool alone, that's a challenging voice to do. I mean, like doing the quips and the rapid fire dialogue and stuff, right?
Oh man, wait till like I said, give it a listen. It's just a post-credit gag, and I think at least 10 or 15% of what you hear in that was ad-libbed.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm known for doing ad-libs at Scyther. But anyway, it's enough about that. So let's start wrapping up here. So first things first, what do you have any upcoming projects you want to let us know about? Is it more, more Batman, maybe a little more Godzilla? Maybe we can collab on that Ninja Turtles meets Gamera thing.
Yeah, well, anytime you want to collaborate, I'm here for you. So website is batmanmeetsgodzilla.com. You can go read all 3 issues there. I have all these wonderful stickers. If you want one of these stickers, I'll send you a few of them. Just write me at batmanmeetsgodzilla@gmail.com, and I'll send you some of those. So I mentioned Newverse Creative on YouTube. Got Batman Enigma just dropped there before Christmas. It's worth going and listening to. It's a fun ride.
Really quick. You've mentioned Batman Enigma several times. What is Batman Enigma? For those who don't
so
know?
that is artist Ian Miller in my take on the Tim Burton Batman universe, the continuation of Batman movies. And so we pick up after Batman Returns with a new villain, which is the Joker and also the Scarecrow. We introduce Nightwing into the story. And so it's basically our own fan take on what a Tim Burton movie could be if he had returned for a third one. And so Ian reached out to me recently wanting to do another run at it. So we're brainstorming now on doing another 3-issue run with a new villain. So you can find me on X at Elliott Comics. And that's Elliott with 2 T's. And then Batman Enigma is on X at Enigma Batman. And then we still have the Batman Meets God 01 for your on X at Batman Meets Godzilla.
So funny to me that it's a completely different comic.
It would be a different comic, but this just the luck of the draw when I signed up for that account, and not really knowing back then it was Twitter, and like me being so new to it, I didn't even know you could change your name, and so I had like this god awful handle on X for my own account that had numbers and stuff in it that nobody could remember before I realized you could go and change it. So it's at Elliott Comics now. You can keep track of whatever I'm working on. So I think the next thing is going to be another, like I said, a Burton universe comic. And like you mentioned before about advice and stuff like that. I've worked with a lot of artists and writers. People reach out to me all the time wanting my take on something or to run something by me or wanting like me to promote something they're doing. I love working with creatives. If you want my take on something or you just want to share something you think is cool, I love that interaction with people. Always happy to help. And I'm always happy to pitch in. So love to hear from people.
All right. And I think you've also covered the shameless self-promotion as we love to do around here.
Yeah, of course.
As we've been talking, I think I will also share this on my author YouTube channel because I'm talking to a writer here, and I think that's part of what I do over there is either giving advice on writing, creativity, but I also love interviewing other writers, talking about their work, or if I have an interesting topic I'd like to talk with them about, I bring them on. I'll add you to my list of people to potentially have on to talk about that. So, to let everybody know, definitely go check out NathanJSMarchand.com. It's my author website. Look up The Worlds of Nathan Marchand on YouTube. That's the YouTube channel. I'm hoping at some point, maybe in the next month or two, once I have a better understanding how it works, I think I will launch a Substack where you can get some of my mostly unfiltered opinions about everything. My little editorial blog to have on there. And check out the Monster Island Film Vault, monsterislandfilmvault.com, and check the show notes where you can get the link trees for all this stuff and go and check those out. Also check out my other current podcast, Henshin Power V3, where three friends have 3 minutes to talk about tokusatsu. If you love Henshin Hero Television, that's the one to listen to. So it's a lot of superhero talk in that one, and and I've got a ton of books and everything that everyone can go check out, including a brand new short story collection called The Worlds of Nathan Marchand Volume 2: Tales of the Lost and Lonely. So give all of those a read and all that fun stuff. And, I think that's basically everything to worry about here. But
give this guy a hug. He's lost and lonely, folks. Give him some love. He's pouring out his heart to you guys. Give back a little.
I thank you very much. Oh yeah. And, MIFV has a Patreon. So go look
there. You
up.
go for, price of a cup of coffee,
Yeah. I don't know. Is coffee as cheap as $3 anymore, even at McDonald's?
See, better for less than a cup of coffee. You can keep this man fed.
Yeah, there you go. In fact, I just this week
fight Nathan's hunger. We're only at it.
Yeah, that's all we're asking. I mean, as of this week, as we were recording this, I just posted a new Patreon exclusive podcast. It is an after show for one of the most insane ideas anyone has ever given me, because I can't take credit for the idea. Gamera Saves Christmas. If you ever needed a kaiju holiday special and one involving a giant turtle fighting a kaiju reindeer and Krampus, I got something for you.
Oh man, the songs write themselves.
They just write themselves. Go check it out, Eric. You'll have a ball. Listen,
I'm there, man.
All righty. Well, like I said, thanks again for coming on here. Go check out all the fun stuff. Go read all of this man's fan comics. You won't regret it. And until next time, cue the credits. Thank you for listening to the Monster Island Film Vault, a podcast produced and hosted by Nate Marchand. Our executive producer is Damon Noyes. If you want to be heard on the show, we'd love to hear from you. So email us at monsterislandfilmvault@gmail.com or leave comments on YouTube or Spotify. Check the show notes and monsterislandfilmvault.com for Linktree links to all of our socials, including our Facebook group and Discord server, The Markalite Lounge. Be sure to follow Jimmy from NASA and our other colorful characters on X/Twitter. Our logo was created by Rebecca Hudgens. Follow her on X/Twitter and Instagram at super_R_illustrations. Sound effects sourced from freesound.org and created by JP Gant. Our theme song is Wanderer on the Offensive, live edit by B33J, Serax, Juan Madrano, and Nonsensical Lexus, which is a remix of Counterattack and The Open Way by Koatani from Shadow of the Colossus. Our music includes Ultraman Rap, Artist Unknown, and Chant My Name, a cover by Second Archive of the song by Masaki Endo, with additional tracks from the 4Kids dub of Ultraman Tiga. All film and audio clips belong to their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended or implied. Visit our TeePublic store, the Monster Island Gift Shop, to purchase official MIFV merch. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and/or Podchaser to spread the word about the show. You can even support us by joining MIFV Max on Patreon. MIFV is a Moonlighting Ninjas media production and a proud member of Pod Nation and the Culture Box Network. Sayonara!